Chosen one, the weight was a weapon. Now you understand. This message is a revelation for those who have waited and wondered why the path was delayed, why the doors stayed closed, and why the breakthrough didn't come when expected. But now, the reason is being revealed. The wait was never a punishment. It was a strategy. It was a divine weapon being used on your behalf behind the scenes. And now, it's time to understand that you were not being left behind. You were being prepared for something greater than you imagined. Stay with this video till the end and write your warmest wishes and 777 in the comments below. This one act sends a ripple of faith through the universe and may activate the very breakthrough you've been praying for. Now, Chosen One, like this video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel, and let's begin. You've waited and waited. You've watched others walk into their moments while you sat in silence, trying to understand why your season felt so slow. You've doubted, you've cried, you've begged heaven to speak. And yet, all you heard was silence. But now the silence is breaking. And what once looked like a delay is being exposed for what it truly was: a weapon. A powerful tool that God was using to build you in secret, shield you from destruction, and position you in a way no shortcut ever could. In the natural, delay often feels like rejection. When the answer doesn't come quickly, it's easy to assume that you're forgotten. But the Chosen One isn't forgotten. They're hidden. Hidden for their own safety. Hidden to be sharpened. Hidden so their enemies think they've disappeared, while in reality, their next move is about to shock everyone. The wait, dear Chosen One, was not passive. It was active warfare. You didn't see it, but the heavens were moving on your behalf. The waiting room became the war room. The silence was heaven's strategy, keeping you under cover while divine arrangements were made. The enemy couldn't locate you. He searched for you in places you were meant to go but hadn't yet arrived. And because of that wait, you were protected from unseen battles, toxic connections, and traps you would have walked into unprepared. There are seasons when God must keep you low so He can build you deep. Foundations take time, and you were never being skipped. You were being strengthened. You were learning how to handle weight, how to master the pressure, how to endure fire without falling apart. The wait was your gym, and every day of delay was a day you gained more muscle in the spirit. While others were being seen, you were being shaped. And now, the shape fits the crown. Now, your capacity matches your calling. Look around. The weight has thinned your circle. It exposed who was never truly for you. You thought some people left because of your faults, but it was your favor that made them uncomfortable. They couldn't understand why doors weren't opening for you, and yet you still had peace. Why you weren't being praised, but still walked like royalty. The wait revealed what applause cannot. This entire time, you were being made ready for a moment that only the mature can carry. And maturity doesn't come fast. It comes from the wilderness, the lonely seasons, the nights where you wept but worshipped anyway, the mornings you got up with no encouragement, no validation, and still moved forward. That's why you're different now. That's why your presence is heavy. That's why when you speak, things shift. Because the wait taught you what the fast track never could. Spiritual wait. You see, delay is only dangerous if it leads to despair. But for you, the delay became discipline. It trained your spirit to rely on more than feeling. It pulled you out of emotional attachment to outcomes and grounded you in faith. Now you know how to stand when nothing makes sense. Now you understand how to worship while bleeding. Now you can be trusted with power because you've been through pressure. The chosen are not built in crowds. They are carved in caves. Quietly, painfully, patiently. And now, that pain has produced purpose. That loneliness has birthed leadership. That confusion has created clarity. You're not who you used to be, and the people who meet you now will never understand the price of your peace, the cost of your confidence, the war it took to wear this level of grace. The weight made you invisible to the wrong rooms, but visible to heaven. While people walked away, angels gathered. While you were silent, heaven was loud. Heaven was organizing, orchestrating, and building what eyes had not seen. And now, chosen one, it's your time. And it won't feel rushed, because you're finally aligned. You've walked through the fire, and now you carry the flame. So don't regret a single day of waiting. Every not yet was divine. Every delay was covered in wisdom. Every unanswered prayer was a redirection. And what's ahead of you will make all the years of questions worth it. This is not the season to question your worth. This is the season to walk in it boldly. Because the wait was not wasted. It was a weapon that disarmed every plan the enemy had for your premature destruction. You are walking into rooms you didn't audition for. Your name has been spoken in places your feet have not touched yet. But it's coming. Because now, the weight of your character can carry the wealth of your calling. You were hidden, but now you're ready. And when the spotlight hits, you won't be shaken. Why? Because you've been through the shadows, and you're still standing. This is divine timing. This is the appointed hour. Not a second early, not a moment too late. You've arrived right on time, because delay is not denial. It is design. And you, chosen one, are the masterpiece born out of the wait. The one who didn't quit when no one clapped. The one who kept sowing without seeing the harvest. But guess what? The harvest is here now, and it's bigger than expected. Now you understand why the process was so intense, why the warfare felt personal, why the silence was so long. It's because your assignment is not ordinary. Your future isn't average, and your presence isn't casual. You are not just another voice in the crowd. You are a move of God. And moves of God are never rushed. They are refined. You've been refined by the fire, and now you carry something that can't be faked. People will look at you and wonder, where did they come from? But the truth is, you've been in the making for years. God just kept you hidden until the right moment. And now, you're about to see why it had to be this way, why it couldn't come sooner, why the doors had to stay closed. Because when they finally open, they won't just open for you, they'll open because of you. You are the one the delay was preparing. You are the one the enemy feared would rise. You are the one God had in mind the entire time. And now, the timing aligns with the training. You won't misuse this next season. You won't sabotage your next level. You've seen too much. You've endured too much. And now, you value what's ahead, because you waited for it with tears in your eyes. Stay alert, chosen one. Everything is moving now. The reason behind the wait is becoming clear. The pressure is lifting. The weight of the delay is turning into the wave of destiny. You are about to ride into rooms with power, not because you pushed your way in, but because you waited your way through. And now, your wait becomes your weapon. Your silence becomes your strength. Your journey becomes your joy. Chosen one, let this truth settle deep within you. The version of you that is rising now is not the same one that entered the waiting season. You've been altered, rewired, recalibrated. And it didn't happen overnight. It happened while you were walking through the unknown, obeying with no guarantee, showing up when everything said give up. That's the beauty of being chosen. You are shaped in the shadows so that when the light finds you, you don't break. You shine. You didn't understand why nothing made sense, why doors that looked so promising slammed shut, why people who claimed they'd stand with you disappeared when things got hard. But it was all part of the holy construction. The scaffolding was up for a reason. What God was building in you couldn't be rushed. And now that the scaffolding is being removed, you're starting to see the structure take shape. You're seeing yourself clearly, not as someone who was delayed, but as someone who was divinely protected. Because the wait gave you more than time. It gave you clarity. It gave you proof of what's real. It showed you who truly supports your calling and who only supported your spotlight. You had to be stripped of illusions, of false security, of empty noise, and that stripping felt brutal. But now, you're lighter, cleaner, sharper, and you walk with discernment that can't be taught in books. It had to be lived through tears. Let's be honest, chosen one. There were moments when you questioned if you misheard the promise. You wondered if the vision was just your imagination. But if that were the case, it would have died by now. And yet, the vision remains. Why? Because it wasn't your imagination. It was your instruction. It was a blueprint written on your spirit before you were ever born. And the wait? That was just the time required to strengthen your hands for the building. You don't just carry a dream, you carry a divine order. You were assigned, and anything assigned from heaven comes with heavenly protection, but also with heavenly timing. That's why you couldn't skip steps. That's why shortcuts were blocked. That's why the fast track was never your path. Because what you're being trusted with is too valuable to hand over to someone still wounded, still easily shaken, still unsure. That's not you anymore. You've been through the refinement. You've bled and kept going. You've praised with empty pockets. You've shown kindness in the face of cruelty. And heaven noticed. Heaven kept score when no one else clapped. And now, it's time. Not just for the release of your promise, but for the release of your authority. The delay did something supernatural. It stirred gifts in you that hadn't awakened before. It opened a depth of insight that can only come through the ache of patience. You don't just want the blessing now. You understand it. And that understanding changes everything. You know how to honor what's holy now. You know how to protect your peace. You know how to say no with conviction. You're not waiting for approval anymore. You've been approved by fire. So now when opportunities arise, you'll recognize which ones are divine and which ones are distractions. You've learned the voice of the counterfeit. You can smell manipulation. You can spot the fake applause. Why? Because the wait exposed all of it. And now you move differently. Not with desperation, but with decision. That's what the wait gave you. Spiritual authority. And spiritual authority isn't loud, it's weighty. You walk into a room and it shifts, not because of ego, but because of presence. Because you've been with God in silence, and now that silence has become strength. That's why you don't beg. That's why you don't chase. That's why you don't panic anymore. You've seen too much to be shaken by temporary resistance. You know the truth now, that some delays weren't obstacles. They were barriers keeping you from moving too fast into things that would have crushed you. You were protected by pause. You were strengthened by stillness. And now, you can't be manipulated by momentum. You don't worship movement. You worship alignment. This is where many get it wrong. They think movement equals progress, But the chosen know that movement without direction is just noise. You waited, and now you move with purpose. You speak with clarity. You discern with precision. And you lead with power, not position. Because your authority doesn't come from people. It comes from process. You've walked through enough darkness to know how to carry light. You've been disappointed enough to know how to steward joy. You've lost enough to know how to value what remains. And that's what makes you dangerous now. Because you're not led by ego. You're led by spirit. You're not chasing the throne. You're protecting your anointing. Do you realize how rare that is? To come out of waiting without bitterness? To emerge from delay without losing your tenderness? That's a miracle. That's grace. And now, that grace is on you like a garment. It's visible. It's thick. And the people around you can feel it, even if they can't explain it. They see the glow. They notice the change. And they know something happened in the waiting. So let them wonder. Let them ask where you've been. Let them be confused by your peace. You don't owe an explanation. You just owe God your obedience. The same obedience that kept you moving when it didn't make sense. That's what's about to open doors for you. Not connections, not charisma. Obedience. Because heaven responds to obedience faster than it responds to desperation. And you, chosen one, have proven your obedience in secret. Now, heaven is about to reward you in public. And no one will be able to deny the evidence. Because the evidence won't just be visible. It will be undeniable. This is your rising. Quiet, but undeniable. Humble, but holy. And you won't have to promote yourself. You won't have to plead your case. Because the same God who kept you hidden is now revealing you. Not all at once, but intentionally. And each step you take is ordained. Each move you make is covered. You are being positioned with precision. You thought the weight was breaking you, but it was actually breaking everything in you that would have broken your destiny. And now, what's left is pure, stable, unshakable. You are not the same. And because of that, what's coming to you is not the same either. It's better. It's richer. It's safer. Because it's aligned with who you've become, not who you used to be. This is how God works with the chosen. He delays so He can develop. He hides so He can heal. And when it's time, He reveals with such power that people will know. It had to be Him. No one could have orchestrated this but God. And when they ask how you made it through, all you'll say is, I waited. And now you understand. Chosen one, this is the part of your life where things begin to unfold. Not because you forced them, but because you aligned with them. You've stepped out of the confusion and into clarity. The veil is lifting. The clouds are parting. And all that time you spent wondering if your season would ever arrive. It's here. Quietly. Powerfully. Unmistakably. And it's because the wait was never about withholding. It was about preparing. You see, heaven had to make sure you could carry what's coming. There are blessings so heavy, so sacred, that if you'd received them too soon, they would have crushed you. Not because they were bad, but because your foundation was still forming. You were still growing your roots, and roots don't grow in the spotlight. They grow in silence, in darkness, deep below the surface. That's why no one could see what was happening in you. But just because it was invisible doesn't mean it wasn't powerful. Your roots were going deep, deeper than anyone around you expected. And now, because of that depth, you can rise taller than you ever imagined. You won't topple like others who grew fast but shallow. You're rooted. And being rooted means storms don't scare you anymore. Winds don't shake you like they used to. Because now you've seen that silence doesn't mean absence, delay doesn't mean defeat, and waiting doesn't mean wasting. What the enemy thought would break your spirit built your armor. He underestimated how dangerous your patience would make you. Because now you're not just chosen, you're trained. You've been to the battlefield of the soul. You've seen how fragile false hope can be. You've learned to trust not what's seen, but what's sensed. Your spirit has become a radar. You feel the shifts before they happen. And that is not a gift that comes cheap. It's born in the fire of waiting. There's something about enduring the wait that gives you access to wisdom others miss. Because in the waiting, you asked deeper questions. You searched for meaning, not just moments. And you found something priceless: yourself. You discovered who you really are without the spotlight, without the crowd, without the applause. You met the version of you that doesn't perform to be seen, but stands tall because it knows its origin. That kind of self-awareness is rare. That kind of inner peace is divine. And now, it's radiating from you like light. People sense it when you walk into the room. You don't even need to speak loudly. The calm in your voice is powerful. The steadiness in your eyes is commanding. You don't need to convince anyone anymore. You simply show up as who you are. And that's enough. This is the reward of the wait. You no longer beg for acceptance. You no longer chase after people who don't value you. You no longer strive to prove your worth. Because now, you know it. Deeply. Irrevocably. And that knowledge changes how you move. You walk with grace. You make decisions from vision, not fear. You say no without guilt, and yes without hesitation. Because the wait gave you discernment. And discernment is a weapon. You now know how to recognize the voice of destiny and the whispers of distraction. You know when to pause, when to push, and when to pivot. You're not reactionary, you're intentional. That's what makes you powerful. That's what makes you rare. That's what makes you ready. Ready not just to receive, but to carry.